All right, so let's dive deep into this world where economic theory kind of collides with how people actually behave.
It's like a head-on collision sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. You've sent over some excerpts from Chapter 3 BBE 2025, which seems to be all about how behavioral economics experiments actually work.
Nuts and bolts.
Yeah. So consider this your crash course on how researchers use these experiments to decode why we humans make the decisions we do, especially when money's involved.
Yeah, it's a bit like peeking behind the curtain of the human mind, isn't it?
Yeah.
These experiments can reveal some truly surprising things about how we respond to incentives, make choices under pressure, and ultimately what drives our economic behavior.
I'm already intrigued. One thing that struck me right off the bat was this whole idea of using experiments in the first place.
Hmm.
You'd think economists could just, analyze real-world data and be done with it.
Yeah.
Why even bother with these controlled scenarios?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it goes to the heart of what makes experiments so valuable. Think about it this way. If you're trying to understand um, how a single ingredient affects a complex recipe, you wouldn't just like paste the final dish, right?
Yeah.
You'd want to isolate that ingredient.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe try it in different combinations, really understand its impact.
Okay, yeah, so you're saying experiments give economists that same level of control, allowing them to isolate specific variables and see how they actually influence behavior
Exactly.
in a way that's just not possible with messy real-world data.
Precisely.
Yeah.
They create a sort of mini laboratory where they can carefully manipulate factors
Mm.
like price, risk, social influence, and then observe how people respond.
Okay.
It's about gaining a deeper understanding of the underlying mechanisms, the real drivers of our economic decisions.
So, in essence, you're saying that while real-world data shows us what people do,
Yeah.
experiments help us understand why they do it?
The why. Exactly.
But isn't there a risk that these controlled environments, that they become like too artificial,
Yeah.
too removed from the complexities of real life?
Right. That's the art of experimental design.
Yeah.
Finding that sweet spot between control and realism. Shyam Sundar, who you mentioned in your materials, lays out 7 key questions to consider when evaluating an experiment. And one of the most intriguing to me is whether it have the potential to surprise us.
I remember that point.
Yeah.
He argues that a good experiment should challenge our assumptions, maybe even lead us to question what we thought we knew about human behavior.
Mm.
It's almost like saying the best experiments are the ones that make us go, huh, I didn't see that coming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not just about confirming our existing beliefs. It's about pushing the boundaries of knowledge and uncovering new insights that can change the way we think about economics.
Okay.
But achieving that balance of rigor and relevance, that's a constant challenge. You want an experiment to be simple enough to control, yet rich enough to capture the essence of what you're studying.
It sounds like walking a tightrope.
It is.
But let's say you've managed to design this perfectly balanced experiment. Then what?
Right.
How do researchers translate their observations into meaningful conclusions about human behavior?
That's where hypotheses come into play. These testable predictions about what we expect to see in the experiment.
Okay.
In traditional economics, the null hypothesis often assumes perfect rationality, meaning people always act in their own best interest.
Ah, the classic Homo economicus, that perfectly rational, self-interested being that populates so many economic models.
Right.
But we both know real humans aren't always so predictable.
Exactly. And that's where alternative hypotheses come in, acknowledging the messiness of human behavior
Okay.
and allowing for the possibility that our choices are influenced by factors beyond just pure self-interest. This is where behavioral economics really starts to differentiate itself.
Yeah.
It embraces the idea that we might be swayed by emotions, social norms, cognitive biases, things that traditional economics might overlook.
So it's less about proving or disproving the idea of perfect rationality.
Right.
And more about exploring these alternative explanations for
Right.
why we behave the way we do.
Precisely. The standard prediction of perfect rationality often serves as a useful benchmark. But it's the exploration of these alternative hypotheses that can lead to truly groundbreaking insights.
And those insights are often gleaned from a variety of experimental settings, right?
Yeah.
The source material you sent mentioned lab experiments, classroom experiments, field experiments. It seems like researchers have a whole toolkit at their disposal.
They do. And each type of experiment has its own unique advantages and drawbacks.
Okay.
Lab experiments, as we discussed, offer that high level of control, but can sometimes feel a bit sterile or artificial.
Right, it's like observing human behavior under a microscope.
Yeah,
But then you have field experiments where researchers venture out into the real world and observe behavior in its natural habitat, so to speak.
exactly. Field experiments can provide richer, more realistic data, but they also sacrifice some control. You can't always isolate variables as cleanly when you're dealing with the complexities of real-world environments.
It makes me think of those nature documentaries where they have to patiently observe animals in their natural habitat, adapting to unexpected circumstances.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And just as wildlife biologists have to adapt their methods to the species they're studying, behavioral economists choose the type of experiment that best suits their research question.
So there's no one-size-fits-all approach to experimental design in behavioral economics.
Not at all.
Okay.
It's about selecting the right tool for the job, whether that's a controlled lab setting, a bustling classroom environment, or the unpredictable terrain of a field experiment.
This is all so fascinating. I'm starting to see why you compared these experiments to peeking behind the curtain.
Hmm.
They offer a glimpse into the often hidden forces that shape our economic decisions.
It's about understanding the interplay between our rational minds and our emotional selves, and how those two forces constantly wrestle for control over our choices.
Now, you mentioned that the source material talks about a few other types of experiments, including classroom experiments and even these high-tech neuroeconomic experiments.
Yes, and each one offers a unique perspective on human behavior. For instance, classroom experiments, while not as controlled as lab settings, can provide valuable insights into how people make decisions in a more familiar everyday context.
Yeah, I imagine the stakes feel a bit higher for the participants too, since it's not just a hypothetical exercise, it's tied to their grades or course credit.
Precisely. And that can sometimes lead to more engaged and realistic behavior.
Hmm.
But before we delve into the specifics of each type of experiment, I think it's worth taking a step back and considering the bigger picture here.
Okay.
What are some of the key insights that behavioral economics experiments have revealed about human nature and our often perplexing economic choices?
Oh, good point. Let's shift gears and explore some of those aha moments that these experiments have uncovered. All right, so we've established that behavioral economics experiments are like these mini laboratories for understanding the human mind, but what exactly have we learned? What are some of those aha moments that you mentioned?
Well, one of the most fundamental concepts that has emerged from this research is the idea of bounded rationality.
Okay.
Traditional economic models often assume that people are perfectly rational, able to weigh all available information and make decisions that maximize their self-interest. But behavioral economists have found that, in reality, our cognitive abilities are limited. We use mental shortcuts or heuristics to simplify complex decisions, and these shortcuts can sometimes lead to systematic biases in our thinking.
So instead of being these supercomputers flawlessly calculating the optimal choice in every situation, we're more like clever improvisers working with limited information and relying on rules of thumb to navigate the complexities of life.
That's a great way to put it. For instance, one common heuristic is called anchoring bias.
Anchoring bias.
Yeah, this is where we tend to latch on to the first piece of information we receive, even if it's irrelevant, and use it as a reference point for subsequent judgments.
Oh, okay.
Imagine you're negotiating the price of a used car.
Okay.
The seller throws out a ridiculously high initial price. Even though you know it's inflated, that number might still anchor your perception of the car's value, leading you to offer a higher price than you would have otherwise.
That's fascinating. I can see how understanding these cognitive biases could be incredibly valuable, not just in economic context, but in all sorts of decision-making scenarios.
Absolutely. And then there's the concept of loss aversion,
Loss aversion.
which suggests that we feel the pain of a loss more intensely than the pleasure of an equivalent gain. This can lead us to be overly cautious and risk-averse, even when taking a risk would be in our best interest. It's like that old saying, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I think we all have a natural tendency to kind of hold on to what we have, even if it means missing out on potential opportunities. This loss aversion bias seems particularly relevant to things like investment decisions or even just everyday choices about how we spend our time and money.
Precisely. And speaking of how we spend our money, another intriguing area of research in behavioral economics explores the role of social motives in our economic behavior.
Okay.
Traditional economics often assumes that we're driven solely by self-interest, but behavioral experiments have shown that we're also motivated by concerns for fairness, altruism, and reciprocity.
So we're not just these cold, calculating machines after all.
No,
It seems like our decisions are often influenced by a desire to do what's right, even if it means sacrificing some personal gain.
that's right. Think about the classic ultimatum game experiment.
Okay.
One person is given a sum of money and has to propose a split with another person. The second person can either accept the offer, in which case both parties get their share, or reject it, in which case both parties get nothing.
Okay.
Traditional economic theory would predict that the proposer should offer the smallest possible amount, and the responder should accept any offer, no matter how small, because something is better than nothing, right?
That makes sense from a purely rational standpoint. But what happens in reality?
In reality, people consistently reject offers that they perceive as unfair, even if it means walking away with nothing. And proposers, anticipating this reaction, tend to offer much more generous splits than traditional economic theory would predict. This suggests that our sense of fairness and our desire to punish unfair behavior can override purely self-interested calculations.
It's almost like we have this built-in moral compass that guides our economic decisions, even when it seems counterintuitive or irrational from a traditional economic perspective.
Exactly, and it highlights the importance of considering factors like social norms and moral considerations when trying to understand economic behavior.
Okay, so we've got bounded rationality, loss aversion, and social motives as key insights from behavioral economics experiments. What else has this research revealed about our often quirky decision-making processes?
Well, another fascinating area of research explores the role of emotions in our economic choices.
Okay.
Traditional economic models often assume that our decisions are based on cold, hard logic. But behavioral economists have found that our emotions can play a powerful role, sometimes leading us to make decisions that we later regret.
I think we've all been there making an impulsive purchase or selling a stock in a panic or overspending on a night out when we know we should be saving. Emotions can definitely throw a wrench in the works of rational decision-making.
They certainly can. For instance, research has shown that when we're feeling excited or optimistic, we tend to overestimate our chances of success and take on more risk. Conversely, when we're feeling fearful,
So it's almost like our emotions act as a filter, coloring our perceptions and influencing the way we weigh potential risks and rewards. Understanding this emotional component seems crucial if we want to make better decisions, especially when it comes to things like investing or managing our finances.
absolutely. And this is where the different types of experiments we touched on earlier come into play. Researchers can use lab experiments to carefully isolate specific emotions and see how they impact decision-making. Or they can venture out into the field and observe how people behave in real-world settings where emotions are often running high.
You mentioned earlier that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to experimental design. Let's delve into those different types of experiments. We've touched on lab experiments and field experiments, but what about those classroom experiments? It seems like a pretty unique setting for studying economic behavior.
Classroom experiments offer a fascinating blend of control and realism. While not as tightly controlled as a lab setting, they allow researchers to observe behavior in a more natural, social environment where participants are interacting with each other and making decisions that have real consequences.
I imagine there's a certain level of excitement and engagement that comes from participating in an experiment that's directly relevant to your course material. It's not just some abstract scenario. It's tied to your grades, your understanding of the subject, and potentially even your future career.
That's right. And because the participants are often familiar with each other, classroom experiments can be particularly useful for studying phenomena like social influence, cooperation, and competition.
It's like a microcosm of the real world where social dynamics and economic decisions are constantly intertwined.
Exactly. And it's a setting that many people can relate to. We've all been in classrooms, we've all experienced the pressures of exams and group projects. So the findings from classroom experiments often have a certain intuitive appeal.
They offer a glimpse into the often unspoken rules and motivations that shape our behavior in these social settings. But what about the limitations of classroom experiments? What are some of the drawbacks researchers need to be aware of?
Well, one limitation is that the participant pool is typically limited to students enrolled in a particular course. This means the sample might not be representative of the general population.
Right, you're not exactly getting a diverse cross-section of society in a college economics class.
Precisely. And while the stakes might feel higher for students participating in a classroom experiment, they're still relatively low compared to real-world economic decisions.
I guess you're not going to see people making life-altering investment choices or negotiating million-dollar business deals in a classroom setting.
That's true. But despite these limitations, Classroom experiments remain a valuable tool for researchers. They provide a unique window into human behavior and allow for the study of complex social and economic interactions in a more natural setting than a sterile laboratory.
Okay, so we've got lab experiments for precision control, field experiments for real-world immersion, and classroom experiments for that social dynamic. But you mentioned one more type of experiment that sounds particularly intriguing: neuroeconomics.
Yes.
What exactly is that, and how does it fit into this toolkit?
Neuroeconomics is a relatively new and rapidly evolving field that combines the tools of neuroscience with the principles of economics to study the neural processes that underlie economic decision-making.
So it's like taking those insights from behavioral economics a step further and actually peering into the brain to see what's happening at a neurological level.
Exactly. Researchers use brain imaging techniques like fMRI to track brain activity while people make economic
Mm.
decisions. This allows them to see which areas of the brain light up when we're evaluating risks and rewards, weighing costs and benefits, or making choices under uncertainty.
It's like having a window into the black box of the brain and seeing the gears turning in real time.
Precisely. And what they're finding is that our economic decisions are not just driven by cold, calculating logic. They're deeply influenced by emotions, intuition, and even subconscious biases that we're not always aware of.
It's almost like our brains are constantly running these complex algorithms, factoring in a whole range of variables from our past experiences to our current emotional state to arrive at a decision. And we're only consciously aware of a fraction of that processing.
That's a great way to think about it. And the insights from neuroeconomics are helping us to understand not only why we make the decisions we do, but also how we can potentially nudge ourselves towards making better choices.
So it's not just about understanding the what of our decisions, but the how, the underlying neurological processes that drive our choices.
Exactly. And this knowledge has the potential to revolutionize fields like marketing, finance, and even public policy. Imagine being able to design products, services, or policies that are tailored to the way our brains actually work.
It's like a whole new frontier of understanding human behavior. But with this level of insight comes a certain responsibility, right? We have to be mindful of how this knowledge is used and make sure it's not exploited for manipulative purposes.
Absolutely. Ethical considerations are paramount in any research involving human subjects, and neuroeconomics is no exception.
Right.
We need to be cautious about how we interpret and apply these findings, always with the goal of empowering individuals to make informed decisions that are in their best interests.
It's like we're unlocking these powerful secrets of the human mind, and it's up to us to use that knowledge wisely and responsibly.
Precisely. And that brings us to another exciting frontier in behavioral economics research: online experiments.
Ah, yes. The digital age has opened up a whole new world of possibilities for studying human behavior. What makes online experiments so unique?
Well, for one thing, they allow researchers to reach a much larger and more diverse pool of participants than traditional lab or classroom settings. With just a few clicks, you can connect with people from all walks of life, across geographical boundaries, and gather data on a scale that was previously unimaginable.
It's like the democratization of research, where anyone with an internet connection can potentially participate in a study and contribute to our understanding of human behavior.
That's such a great way to put it. And online platforms like Amazon's Mechanical Turk have made it easier than ever to recruit participants for online experiments, often at a fraction of the cost of traditional methods.
So it's faster, cheaper, and reaches a wider audience. What's not to love?
Yeah,
But I imagine there are challenges as well.
of course. One challenge is ensuring the quality of the data. In an online setting, you don't have that face-to-face interaction with participants, so it can be harder to control for things like distractions, multitasking, or even people trying to game the system to earn more money.
Right, you're relying on people to be honest and attentive, which isn't always a given, especially in an online environment where it's easy to get sidetracked.
Exactly. So researchers have to be creative in designing their online experiments, building in safeguards like attention checks, data validation techniques, and even incorporating elements of gamification to keep participants engaged.
It's like a constant arms race between researchers trying to ensure data quality and participants who might be trying to cut corners or find loopholes.
In a way, yes. But despite these challenges, online experiments offer an incredibly powerful tool for behavioral economists. They allow us to study a wider range of phenomena, test our theories on a larger scale, and gain insights into how people behave in the increasingly digital world we live in.
It's like having this massive virtual laboratory at our fingertips, constantly generating new data and pushing the boundaries of our understanding. This is all so incredibly fascinating. But as we wrap up our exploration of these different types of experiments, I want to bring it back to the listener. Why should they care about all of this? What makes behavioral economics so compelling, and how can these insights be applied in the real world?
That's a great question. And I think there are a few key reasons why behavioral economics has captured the imagination of so many people. First and foremost, it's about understanding ourselves.
Okay.
It's about peeling back the layers of our decision-making processes and uncovering the hidden forces that shape our choices.
It's like holding up a mirror to human nature, warts and all, and seeing ourselves in a new light.
Exactly. And it's humbling, but also empowering. Once we understand the biases and heuristics that influence our thinking, we can start to make more conscious and deliberate decisions.
So it's not just about understanding why we do the things we do, but about using that knowledge to potentially make better choices in the future.
Precisely. And that brings me to the second reason why behavioral economics is so compelling. Its potential to solve real-world problems.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How are these insights being applied to make a positive impact?
Well, behavioral insights are being used in a wide range of fields, from public policy to marketing to healthcare.
Oh, wow.
For example, governments are using behavioral nudges to encourage people to save for retirement, donate their organs, or make healthier lifestyle choices.
So instead of relying solely on traditional economic incentives like taxes or subsidies, policymakers are using these subtle nudges to guide people towards making choices that are beneficial for themselves and society.
Exactly. And it's been remarkably effective. For example, by simply changing the default option on retirement savings plans, some companies have dramatically increased employee participation rates.
It's amazing how a small tweak, informed by an understanding of human behavior, can make such a big difference.
It really is. And in the realm of marketing, companies are using behavioral insights to design more persuasive advertising campaigns, create more engaging customer experiences, and even nudge people towards buying certain products or services.
I guess traditional marketing often relies on assumptions about rational consumer behavior, which we now know don't always hold up in the real world.
That's right. By understanding how people actually make decisions, marketers can create more effective campaigns that resonate with consumers on a deeper level. For example, by leveraging the principle of scarcity, marketers can create a sense of urgency or exclusivity around a product, making it seem more desirable.
I've definitely fallen for that one before. It's amazing how these seemingly simple principles, rooted in an understanding of human psychology, can have such a powerful influence on our behavior. What about healthcare? How are behavioral insights being used in that field?
Behavioral economics is playing an increasingly important role in healthcare, particularly when it comes to promoting healthy behaviors and improving patient adherence to treatment plans.
So instead of just telling people what they should be doing, healthcare providers are using behavioral nudges to make it easier for them to make healthy choices.
Exactly. For example, by making healthy foods more prominent and convenient in cafeterias and grocery stores, some hospitals and communities have been able to increase fruit and vegetable consumption.
It's like you're subtly shaping the environment to make the healthy choice the easy choice. What are some other ways behavioral economics is being applied in healthcare?
What another powerful tool is framing.
Framing.
By framing messages in a positive and encouraging way, healthcare providers can increase patient motivation and adherence to treatment plans.
So instead of focusing on the negative consequences of not taking medication, you might emphasize the positive benefits of staying healthy.
Exactly. And it's been shown to be effective in a variety of contexts, from encouraging people to get flu shots to helping patients manage chronic conditions like diabetes and heart disease.
This is all so fascinating. It seems like behavioral economics has the potential to make a real difference in the world. But I'm also wondering about the potential downsides. Could these insights be misused or abused? Could they be used to manipulate people or exploit their biases?
Those are important questions. And while the potential for misuse certainly exists, I believe that the benefits of behavioral economics far outweigh the risks. It's about using our understanding of human behavior to create a better world for everyone.
That's a reassuring perspective. It seems like the key is transparency and ethical considerations. As long as these insights are used responsibly and with the goal of empowering individuals rather than manipulating them, I think behavioral economics can be a powerful force for good.
I couldn't agree more. It's about using our knowledge of human behavior to nudge people towards making choices that are beneficial for themselves and for society as a whole.
Okay, so we've explored the why, the how, and the where of behavioral economics experiments. We've discussed the key principles of behavioral economics and their applications in a variety of fields. And we've touched on the importance of ethical considerations in ensuring that these insights are used responsibly.
It's been a fascinating journey through the world of behavioral economics.
It really has. And I think our listeners probably feeling a lot more informed about this field now. We've covered a lot of ground from, why we even do these experiments to the different ways researchers design them, plus all those cool insights that have come out of it and how we can actually use them to make a difference in different areas.
Yeah.
Is there anything else about this world of behavioral economics experiments that you think our listeners should know?
I think it's worth emphasizing that behavioral economics is still a relatively young field. Like, there's so much more to discover, right?
Yeah.
And one of the most exciting things about this field is that it challenges us to, like, rethink our assumptions about human behavior.
Yeah, it's like we're constantly peeling back layers of the onion, uncovering new complexities, new nuances in the way we make decisions.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so intellectually stimulating. It's a field that's constantly evolving, challenging us to think critically and creatively about the forces that shape our economic lives.
So it's not just about, memorizing a set of principles or formulas. It's about like developing a mindset,
Yeah.
a way of looking at the world that takes into account the complexities of human behavior.
Precisely. And that mindset can be incredibly valuable, not just for economists, but for anyone who wants to understand how people make decisions, whether it's in business, politics, or even our personal lives.
Yeah, it's like having this secret decoder ring for human behavior, allowing us to see those hidden influences that are shaping our choices.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
And the more we understand those influences, the better equipped we are to navigate the complexities of the world around us. Yeah.
So, to our listener out there, now that you've gotten a taste of how behavioral economists design experiments and the amazing insights they've uncovered, we really encourage you to keep exploring this field. Maybe you've noticed some weird economic behavior in your own life. The way your friends tip at restaurants, the decisions your family makes about like a vacation spending or even just your own spending habits. Whatever it is, use this new knowledge as a lens to examine those behaviors and see if you can spot the hidden forces at play. Keep that curiosity alive, and who knows? Maybe you'll even be inspired to design your own behavioral economics experiment someday. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of behavioral economics experiments. Until next time, keep those knowledge seeking gears turning.